Well, a few weeks ago, I bought a new projector for my living room. It was my attempt at compromising because I absolutely point blank refused to have a TV in house, but I wanted to have something to display things whenever I had parties or guests. And it worked pretty well, to be honest. Though learning how to use it and where to place it was a bit of a learning curve. In more detail, I brought it out at my second large housewarming for different groups of my friends. I'd already done one before for my really close friends, but this was like one for the general public, so to speak. And the groupings were very disparate, so it was probably a good idea to have something that brought them all together, like this projector. In terms of how I did, I just set the thing up with some technical support from my partner, and it automatically adjusted to the place it was projecting. In this case, that was the wall. And people could see it as they came in and ask questions and mess around with it. It's quite fragile, or at least it seems it's quite fragile. So I did my best to keep out of the way and keep it out of the way to avoid people tripping up over it. Aside from some slight anxiety about accidental damage, I was quite keen to show the thing off, to be honest. It was relatively inexpensive, and it did a great job in addition to being fairly easy to use. All you needed to do was plug it in and then find an ideal place to sit it, and then you could use the remote to issue instructions and find things to watch, since it also has an internet connection and a very user-friendly interface, especially after a few drinks, which is always useful for a party. I wasn't too happy about the initial position I put it in, which is on the coffee table, but later on, after I moved it to a less precarious place on a shelf rather than the coffee table, I think it's much better now, and I'm really looking forward to showing it off in the future. It looks pretty cool, at least I think so, and it takes up all of that extra wall space I have just sitting there.
What qualities should a good learner have?
I think there are as many lists as there are learners, to be honest. But I think some common ones are being able to organize and reflect effectively on their learning so they can build on it further.
What skills should children learn?
Oh, I think that's entirely dependent on the context and the culture, don't you? I mean, what's important for one group of people might not be in another. If you live in a country where there's famine and sort of rampant economic strife, then you're probably not going to need people who are good at building cars. You will need people who can farm.
And what about skills that all children should learn? Are there any, basic skills that everybody should learn?
I don't think there are outside of social skills, but what constitutes good social skills and bad ones is something that is socially determined. That's not something universal.
What are the differences between the things adults learn and the things that children learn?
Well, probably nothing too great. I suppose if we divide it up, then adults would learn more abstract and specific things, and children would focus on more concrete and general things, since their understanding and awareness isn't quite as fine-tuned as adults. But there has to be some progression in that regard, so it's more of a spectrum really than a hard divide, now I think about it.
Why are some people not willing to ask for help from others while studying?
Well, asking for support is potentially quite hard, especially if you're a proud person and you pride yourself on being self-sufficient. Well, it could compromise your self-image. The other thing is that you might need to work things out by yourself. Even though it takes more time, you might feel more certain and satisfied if you come to a conclusion by yourself rather than having one handed to you by others.
Do you think it's important to learn new things?
If it's necessary to learn them, then yes. But if it's just learning things for the sake of learning them, then no, because there needs to be some purpose behind it. You don't just randomly pick up information. It doesn't make any sense. It has no utility.
And why do you think some people enjoy trying new things and learning new things?
Well, they need to do it, or they're learning it for a purpose, so they might want to do it in order to be able to do something. So you might take up acrobatics in order to become an acrobat. So it's not just like learning for the sake of learning. There's a reason behind it, and that reason might be to have a particular skill to sell or to have something to show off to people.
And does technology have a positive influence on the way people learn things?
Well, it could have. It depends on how it's used. So if it's used in order to organise information, like on a spreadsheet or something like that, then it will have a positive effect because the information is clearly displayed. But if it's misused or inappropriately used, like you access something completely unrelated to what you're supposed to be learning as a distraction, then that will not be helpful. So it's not a one choice or the other. It's dependent on the use.